my quick story is that I moved to LA at 19 to pursue acting. And I spent 10 years pursuing the industry as an actress, and I had a really rough go at it. And in 2009, I packed up all my bags and I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I was like, all right, God, what do you want me to do with my life? Because this isn't working. And I spent a year in the desert kind of praying and walking the desert. And I was a companion for elderly people. And then I got a stand-in job working on, I was Megan Fox's stand-in, I was Kat Denning's stand-in on Thor, and I started getting on all these big sets. And then I started meeting all these other indie filmmakers. And I was like, well, maybe I should start making my own work so I can put myself in it as an actor. So I got together with all these awesome indie filmmakers in New Mexico, and we started running around making shorts and web series. And then we were like, why don't we just make a feature film? And got like a bunch of shorts put together. And I also was thinking, I know that in order to get money, you've got to make something, like who's going to be like, or a studio is going to be like, I'm going to make your movie. You've never done anything. So 5 of us went to the New Mexico desert, made this tiny little indie movie. Now, I knew at the time that thrillers, horrors sold with no star names at the indie budget. I knew that coming from the acting world of being in a lot of thrillers with no star names that were getting distributed. And so we made this little film called Home Sweet Home about a woman who returns to her childhood abandoned house, and there's squatters living in it and they don't want to leave. And the villain's a woman and the victim's a woman. And we made it like 5 people, all one location. And we ended up selling that movie through a sales agent to RLJ Releasing. And it got on the shelves of Walmart, and it actually got out there. It was probably the right year. I sold at American Film Market, probably in a year that was less competitive. And it's only gotten more competitive and harder as everybody can get a camera and shoot their own stuff and make stuff. But funnily enough, once I started making my own movies, I loved it so much that I was like, acting, whatever. I want to write and produce movies. And so I was going to start off today with distribution, because I feel like we're going to reverse engineer this and do distribution, because I think distribution is the most important part of selling your movie. And it should not be the thing you think about when your movie is done. It's the thing you should think about before you even make your movie, whether you're writing your own script, or whether you're acquiring someone's script to make it. Distribution is the key. And, since I've started making my own movies in 10 years, distribution continues to change. But I have made 8 feature films. All of them I have taken from conception to completion, and 7 of them I have gone on to sell to major distribution companies, all of them except for the one that right now is out for market being sold at the moment. So, and the good thing is I've been a part of every process of making my movies. So hopefully I can answer the questions you guys might have, because I literally have done it all. I worked really closely with our sales agent. I wanted to learn. I was part of it. I was part of marketing. I've done it all. So, and the truth is, no one's going to care about your movie more than you're going to care about your movie. So even if you get a huge distribution company, you're still going to be with that movie for the rest of your life, telling people about it, marketing it. So make sure you love what you make. But I was going to share, I teach a class on distribution, because when I made my first feature film, Home Sweet Home, I sent it to all the film festivals and I didn't get in anywhere. And I was like, oh, what do I do with a movie if I don't get into film festivals? And I met a poster company at a Women in Film event, and I said what I needed, which I was like, I don't know how to sell this movie I made. And they said, why are you trying to go to a film festival with a thriller? That's going to sell. You need a sales agent. And I was like, okay, how do I get a sales agent? I knew nothing. And I actually took all these classes. I spent all this money trying to learn about distribution. And I'd walk away from the classes with like, okay, the pie chart, how it breaks down, but it's like, who cares how the pie chart breaks down unless you sell your movie? So I do have a little class, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Okay. So I can start with sort of the distribution, because I do think it's the key elements of how to sell your movie, like I said, should be on your mind when you begin starting. And there's 2 different, there's traditional self-distribution where you go out, you get a sales agent, you try to get with a big major distribution company, they put you on all the platforms. Then nowadays there's more indie distribution, like self-distribution with indie rights, where they act as an aggregator and you can upload your movie to indie rights. They get you out there and they take I think they take 20%, you get 80% of the profit. But the big question is, what do you need to make your movie stand out? Or even a platform like I made a movie for $1,000 all in, I think, to make it, then 5,000 finished film. And I ended up getting a sales agent who took my movie and he acted more like as an aggregator, where he put us on Tubi and Roku channel and Freevee. But you're not going to get chosen by those platforms unless you have the assets already done. Because if you sell it to a distribution company like RLJ Releasing or PureFlix or Vertical, they'll make your assets. They'll help you with your poster and your trailer and all. But if you're going to if you have a smaller film and you're like, I don't want to go even try for that, I want to do like an aggregator situation, you have to provide all the assets. And the most important part of your movie, which I talk about all the time, if anyone's ever heard me talk about, is a poster. The poster is the most important part. So when you're thinking about, there we go. When you think about your movie, and you've got to think about, who is your target audience? Who are you selling this movie to? You have to think of all these things in the beginning, because you pretty much have to do it for the distribution company or for your audience, so they can automatically see, oh, this is for me, I want it. We've sold our movies literally off the poster, because the distribution company was like, oh, I know exactly how to market that. So even though you are an indie filmmaker, you also have to know how to get the movie sold and out there ahead of time. And throughout this 6 weeks, we have 6 weeks to cover everything, because sometimes I can get there's so much information I don't want, but we have plenty of time. And you can still see my screen. I think, like, you can read the stuff, like how to get a distribution company's attention, how we did this for our films. I won't go through the entire class. We won't have enough time, but I will cover everything in this class, because these things are so important that I'll teach an entire distribution class, and then someone will come up to me and be like, let me show you my poster for my movie. And I'll be like, no. Having a professional poster and then having a professional trailer and a beautiful finished film are what you need to sell your movie. And so our first film, Home Sweet Home, and if there are questions, Jean, let me know, because I'm here for you guys. So but this is just kind of an overview of how we did it. And this is not, it doesn't have my old poster, which makes me wonder which one I'm using. Sorry, you guys. But this was my thriller. And I have another poster that a friend made, and it was not so great. Then I have the poster that Dog and Pony made, and that is amazing. And we literally sold Home Sweet Home to RLJ Releasing. I don't even know if they've ever watched the movie. They'll watch the first 10 minutes. The distribution company will watch the first 10 minutes and maybe the end, to make sure it has a beginning and end, and see how the quality is, why the first 10 minutes of your movie is the most important part for your audience too. And then they send it down to quality control, and somebody watches it to make sure there's a movie there and no glitches. And then, so really you're selling your movie off of your assets. So in Home Sweet Home, we knew exactly what we were selling, like a woman alone in a house who's fighting for her life. And we did that kind of work for them. And this is the poster that the distribution company made. And as you see, we knew what kind of film we were making, that we were able to market it to the distribution company, so that the distribution company could go ahead and sell it to the audience it was going after. And it's crazy. We made this movie all in for $10,000. We sold it to the distribution company for $20,000, and that was just US rights. And then it went on to do really well for them. And then that's what kind of parlayed me into faith-based family, where I completely pivoted from horror into faith-based family. And it's so crazy, because I will say, now that I've learned these, and then that's the UK poster. And then we moved on to Catching Faith. Now that I have learned how hard it is to build a brand and build an audience, I stayed in one place because I worked so hard marketing Home Sweet Home and building connections in the thriller horror world. And then, of course, when I moved into faith-based family, I lost all that work. And it's not lost because it parlayed my career, but I was like, okay, we need to stick with a brand, build an audience. And then I found my home and where I love, which is in female-driven faith-based films. So for at this point, when I had made Home Sweet Home, and maybe one of these days we can go through how I did each film, although a lot of it's in my book too. My sales agent, I had written another horror movie, and my sales agent said, don't make another horror movie. Horror thrillers are going to be oversaturated in the marketplace next year. You know what you should be making is faith-based family. They sell for higher in the market, and they have a tapped-in audience. If you think about it, faith and horror, both tapped-in audiences who can't get enough of the content. So I'm so glad that I pivoted and went into faith-based family movies. We actually made this about a woman, even though the poster is marketed as a football movie. It does have football, but it stars a woman. We actually made 3 posters. At this point, I knew Dog and Pony Creative, my poster company. They read the script, and this saved me a lot of money, and I do this on all my movies now. We came up with, off the script and how we thought we wanted to sell the movie, we came up with the poster. So on set, I brought in a white backdrop and a photographer, and I got all the pictures of our actors on set, which I didn't know to do that for Home Sweet Home. So we had to spend extra to create that poster. And especially because we have Bill Engvall in this movie, I could never have afforded to bring Bill back after we made the movie. But on set, you can bring your actors, like on our next movie, Wish for Christmas, I had Joey Lawrence and Lee Allen Baker, and I was able to bring them all into a corner and take their photo, and that will save you so much money and if you can make an awesome poster, like this poster our Dog and Pony made, the distribution company didn't change a thing, and they bought it off the poster, and this is what went to market. So that's good for you, because that means you don't have to have that money put against you when you go to sell, when you trying to recoup the money for your movie. So anyway, that's how we got into faith-based family. And my sales agent gave me $75,000 all in. I literally gave up everything I owned, put it all in storage. And I moved in with my sister in Wisconsin to write the script, and spent the next year living out of a suitcase to make Catching Faith. We were also trying to prove that there was a market for female-driven faith-based films when there wasn't any numbers or movies. This was before Miracles from Heaven with Jennifer Gardner. So we really were taking a risk. Our sales agent was taking a risk. He was like, my EP sales agent was like, I don't know how, there's no numbers to back up this. And I was like, well, then we're going to do it and prove it and show that there's a whole audience desperate for this. And I think even in the beginning of my career, I'm so grateful I put myself into such a small niche where there weren't a lot of films, because it helped me break out in the industry, as opposed to just like, what if I had stayed in horror and I could never compete with Blumhouse or the studios in the indie world. I was able, God is good, and I was able to break out with these female-driven faith-based films. And then Catching Faith, another thing I always tell people, people were like, oh, you're never going to sell a faith-based movie to a company that you sold a horror movie to. Well, we sold this same movie to the same company that bought Home Sweet Home, because the assets were beautiful. The poster was great. The trailer was great. And the finished film was beautiful. So we sold it to RLJ Releasing. And why I always harp on how important a poster is because the inside scoop of how this movie sold was that my sales agent from Home Sweet Home, who is now with me on Catching Faith, had a meeting with RLJ Releasing, and he said, hey, I have this faith-based film. Do you want to check it out? And the guy said, our faith-based division's kind of dwindling. We're not really taking any movies there, but you know what? I'll give you a fake offer that you can take to American film market, so that when people make an offer, I'll back an offer for RLJ and give you a bidding war. That's what happens behind closed doors, why having a sales agent can be really, really good. And he said, okay, I'll take that. And then he said, right before he was leaving, he said, you want to see the poster for my movie and tell me what you think? And he showed it to him and he said, I'm buying that right now, a $250,000 offer on that movie. I want that movie. I know exactly how to market it, sell it, because we did all the work for him. And then of course, my sales agent, being smart, was like, well, I'll take that offer and I'm going to American Film Market. And of course, that was the biggest offer we got. And we did work with RLJ Releasing on Catching Faith. So the 2 movies literally of mine sold off the poster. And when you don't have a star name, you need the poster to convey to everybody why they want to buy your movie. Later on, I made my next movie was Wish for Christmas, which we shot in my hometown. We parlayed the sale of Catching Faith. My sales agent, executive producer, was super smart, ran out and got us the money for this movie while we had just come off of a really high sale for the last movie. And then obviously with this poster, this is very similar to what Dog and Pony made for this movie. They just changed it a little bit. This is Pure Flex Universal. Now we're selling off of star names more than a concept. So that's just good to know when you're making posters. Are you selling it off of a concept, or are you selling it off a star name? And in the beginning of our career, we didn't have any stars in our movie. So the importance of, the importance of knowing which one to do and to make a beautiful poster, because it really is the gateway between you and the distribution company, and it's the gateway between you and your audience. And so our films have all sold on the shelves of Walmart. They've all been on major platforms, and a lot of that has to do with the poster. Even Walmart picks the movies based off of the posters. They get a sheet and they just pick, I want this, I want that. So no one's watching your movie, they're looking at your key art. So the key art is what I'm always like. But also, why I like to talk about it too is that this is stuff that you should be thinking about when you start your movie. And like, we made the we have another Wish for Christmas poster that tells more of the story. But once we went into the deal with the distribution company, they were like, we're selling this off Joey Lawrence and Lee Allen Baker. But I did make a more sort of a magical, because she makes a wish that her parents wouldn't believe in God. And when it comes true, she finds out what life is like. So it's more of actually like a teen girl, mother-daughter family movie, but they didn't really put it that way in the poster. But the movie still did really, really well for them.
Alexandra, can I interrupt you real quick? Because I know you're doing a fantastic job and you're covering so much in a very quick amount of time. So Ayanna has a terrific question.
Yes.
Are there so the 2 things that I'm hearing you say is sales agent and poster.
Yeah.
So the first question I'm going to ask from Ayanna, are there best practices you found in designing posters style-wise, or does this style depend on genre or film? And like you mentioned, concept or star power? So that's a poster question. The second question is, you were very blessed to get a sales agent who was for you from the get-go.
Yeah.
For those people, producers here who are looking for a sales agent, can you explore that relationship, how you found them, how you get them on your side?
For sure. All right. I'll go with the sales question, because I can't believe how quickly an hour goes by. And this is why it's good you guys have my email in the chat. You can email me questions that I can be prepared for next week. But sales agents, so IMDb Pro should be your best friend from here on out, because you can find everything on IMDb Pro. Most of them have their information right there. You can reach out to sales agents. My sales agent came from, actually, I had tried to get a sales agent. I was sending out press releases. This was back in Home Sweet Home days, sending press releases and doing my own marketing for the movie before we were actually sending out posters, like making buzz about it before it even had a sales agent. And then Dog and Pony, my poster company, they actually had it up on their website, and a sales agent hired them off of my poster. And she said, do you know that poster is not wrecked? And he said, oh my gosh, that's a great poster. We could sell that movie. And so he said, send me over they connected me. I sent him the movie. we actually decided to meet him in person. I wanted to meet my sales agent. You'll hear lots of horror stories. I got really blessed that I started working with a lot of people in the beginning of their careers. So we all kind of went up together. Like Dog and Pony had just opened up their poster company, so they were working at a level I could afford. And then same with Ryan Keller. He had just opened Instrom International, and he was meeting kind of indie filmmakers. So I got to meet him in person. I really liked him. I trusted him. And he also, so that's how, but you can find them on IMDb Pro. You can call other filmmakers. I would say vet people. I've heard horror stories about sales agents. But I feel so blessed because my sales agent was amazing. And I mean, now he heads up the London offices at Vertical Entertainment. So he's doing great. He's a good guy. And he was with me and then my sales agent became my executive producer, which was amazing to have a sales agent on your team ahead of time, knowing your movie will go to market, knowing it'll sell. That makes the investors feel more comfortable.
Yeah. So would it be a warning that you would not pay a sales agent?
Oh my gosh.
They are not distributors. There are so many shysters out there. Do not pay sales agent.
Do not pay a sales agent. I had a company tell me if I paid them $10,000 up front, they'd rep my movie. I was like, well, then why would you rep my movie? You just got $10,000 from me. So yeah, it's like an agent for an actor. They make money when you make money. Anyone who wants money up front, sketchy. Don't go with them. They, I mean, there might be legal fees and things that will come out of from, because they've got to get lawyers and but having a sales agent is so key, because a distribution company, I wouldn't know how to deal with a long form contract that comes from a distribution company. I would look at it and be like, I have no idea what this means. I might be selling this in my, firstborn child to the distribution company. So a sales agent protects you because they have a lawyer, and maybe I'll like those fees. Although my sales agent didn't really put any money against us. He kind of lumps all of his filmmakers together and didn't. Looking back, he was really good to us. Yeah. So, and then the poster question about concept start, what was that one?
The question is, are there best practices for poster design? So you found Dog and Pony, which is fantastic. I think you're brilliant in your research, and maybe there's some tips that you can send to producers here. What did you look for? How did you find them other than IMDb? Was it networking, etc.? So are there best practices, how they should be laid out, and if it's genre based, etc.?
Yes. So when I first started working with Dog and Pony for Home Sweet Home, I went and looked at all the movies in our category, and I looked at everything that was selling and making money. So I looked at the Strangers poster, and I looked at this and I looked at that, and I was like, ooh, I like a mix of this with that. And so you do need to know who your audience is and then always the same with the trailer, you're looking at what is selling in the market, what's grabbing, because in the beginning of our career, our director did edit our trailers, which I would now say hiring a trailer editor is, now that I can, it's much better because they understand how to look at a movie from the outside and go, oh, these are the clips that the audience needs to see to buy it, that as a director, you might not, you're so in your movie. Like at some point, I'll show you the director's edit of our trailer and then Home Sweet Home RLJ's trailer to see the complete difference of like the director made it more indie stylized horror and the distribution company made it super mainstream. You want to buy this movie. And like, I learned so much in that first movie I made because it was like a 101 in producing. And also with my sales agent, when I first got with him, he said, are you guys willing to cut 2 minutes out of the first 10 minutes? And we went back in and did a cut for him because he said it was too long in the beginning. So I'll say like a lot of my career along the way has been listening to the experts in their fields. I never, sometimes I might say, I don't like that idea, but I really try to not, I know a lot of indie filmmakers that get really bullheaded and they're like, it's my movie and it's this. But you've got to trust the people that know what they're doing. And I'm so grateful that Ryan told us to cut those minutes because we might not have sold the movie. It was too long to get her to the house. And he was like, get to the meat of the movie.
So Alexandra, real quick, is Ryan not exclusively a faith-based agent, right? So you look for a good agent
Look
who
for a good
could,
agent. Yeah. I mean, that sales agents, distribution companies can be a little more specific, like oscilloscope laboratories, like definitely do your research on that. But sales agents can rep all kinds of different movies. They can have a whole, in fact, Ryan started because he was at a major distribution company, and he started his own company because he felt so bad for all these indie movies that were so beautiful, but not seeing distribution, which we will continue to talk about in another thing. That maybe your passion project speaks to you, but does it speak to the masses? So he actually started the company because he wanted to save all these indie movies, but then really quickly learned he had to make a dime. So he went over and started getting horror movies because they sold. So you know, and that's like so important that you are thinking about what is marketable to the masses, but then it's also thinking about when you start a movie, what is your ultimate goal? Is it to, obviously everybody wants to recoup their money, but is it like, I just want to win an award at a film festival, or I just want to be on the shelves of Walmart? Some people have different dreams and goals, although with 8 movies later, you do want to recoup your money because you really want to make another movie. So making things that are really sellable are really important. And it's why, you know, you hear about Sundance. A lot of the movies at Sundance don't even go on to see distribution because those movies don't sell to the masses. People are not like interested in, you know, we hear about them because we're in the industry and we're like, oh, it's so beautiful. And then you're like, it didn't make any money.
Yeah.
So your goal is to make money, and for yourself, the investors, and the distribution company.
I would imagine the poster is much like a book cover.
It
in
is.
that
It's
regard.
the book cover.
Yeah.
It's your cover. And I emphasize it so much because people end up skimping on it. Like they'll put all this money into their movie. And I've been around a lot of indie filmmakers for the last 24 years in Los Angeles. And I can't believe that you would skimp on your poster and then put all this money into your movie, because the poster really is so important. So I stress it in the beginning. And then you should know, I know when I'm writing a script or when I'm coming up with a log line, what does the poster look like? And that's so, like, you have to know how you could market this from the second you write that log line, and how would you sell that on an image?
Right. Stop me, that we have a question from Louise.
Okay.
And just as an aside, as I understand it, it's about 20% budget for marketing and promo for your production of your film. You need to set that aside. That's how important this is, the visuals and visual communication. So Alexandra, let me know if you want me to save all the questions toward the end, if you want me to.
Well, we're already at 6 o'clock, so why don't we do the questions now?
Okay, so Louise asked, she shot a 15-minute episode of a concept, and she's gotten a lot of great feedback. Is she able to use this information for a series, or would that look different? Louise, please jump in. And we have a small intimate class. The goal is for you to connect directly with Alexandra.
We were going to do it as a web series and put it on YouTube. Well, that's not the right platform for it. It was written as a 22-minute. I don't want to take the integrity of it and force it into a 5-minute webisode. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And so I do know.
So you have 22 minutes.
We have 15 minutes edited down, but it's written, they're written as if you would see a sitcom on TV. Think like a Modern Family or something like that.
So do you want to pitch this out to studios?
I do. Well, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Do I just shelve it and be done? Can I use this same information you're giving me for a series? What is that? I would love to get it paid for, so I can, do I do a whole season and then pitch it?
That's tough with series, because I mean, people do it. I don't have a ton of experience in the TV series world because it is so hard. Because what if you make a whole series and no one buys it? You can't really self-distribute it, right? So it's like, you want to get studio meetings, you want to put your pitch deck together, you need like a pitch deck. And if you have anything to show, it's like a sizzle reel. You'll be like, oh, it's like this. You could absolutely take that out and pitch it to studios.
I'm wondering, do you think it's better in pitching to just, I can make it a movie. It doesn't matter. I mean, is it better to maybe do it that way? Then I'm not fighting my way, and maybe eventually you get into,
Well, if you can make a feature, I feel like there are probably easier outlets, like even if you don't get a Netflix or an RLJ, there's so many different platforms you can get your movie onto. If you want to make a movie, a series is so different because it's like network. You have to be able to get that somewhere. And I don't know if Tubi's picking up series. I'd have to look into that. But like, I think the thing, we were just dealing with that recently on a pitch we were doing, and somebody said, what about a series? And I said, well, right, but we don't have a platform. So I'm trying to, I could make you a feature, and and then if it does really well, make a series from the feature, which is a big thing people are doing too. Like they're taking features and turning them into series. So we'll often say that when someone says that, we'll say, well, if this does well, we'll go write a series. But look at all the they're doing Interview with a Vampire off of that movie. Everything's turning into a series. And if it does well, because I think it is hard. You have to pitch that out to studios, and there really is no indie world for TV right now. You'd have to,
Yeah, I would just wanted to jump in. There have been some very successful YouTube series like Drunk History. That's a little bit older. It's hilarious, but it got picked up.
Yeah.
So those are things that could work. I know Alexandra is specialized in feature. I love her feature films. And so there is room that if you make a great feature, it can spin into a series. True Lies is coming out as a series. And that it's been years since that movie came out.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was a web series. The only thing I would say is those are the 1 in a million shots. I know so many people who made web series back in the day, and they didn't get that 1 in a million. So it's like always, how can you position yourself to succeed?
Well, and that was the thing. And one of my classmates, I take an acting class, and one of my classmates is like a major influencer. He's, way up there. And I actually had a meeting with him because he blew up, on a web series. But let me tell you, he is gorgeous. So it's like, he's this young kid, he's gorgeous. Of course you blew up. And so he's my scene partner this week. But I talked to him, and it's what made me kind of think, okay, maybe I need to pause this because I'm not sure YouTube is the right platform for it.
Well, and you also have to market it and know who to go after. It's a lot of work. I'm not saying, hey, I work hard. I just feel like I always want to set people up for the best success. And I think that the 1 in a million shot is and like a lot of these people probably even had someone behind them. It's like everyone says Paranormal Activity just blew up. No way. It had Paramount. Like I always, I even had a friend who had 2 movies at Sundance. I used to hang out with him. I knew her from my acting class, and I thought, man, wow, her movies. Oh, she had a connection into Sundance. So I always get a little like, did they really do it from scratch, or did they actually have a connection in? So if you're doing it from scratch, my advice would be set yourself up for success. Whether or not you get that 1 in a million chance. And TV is tough. TV is hard.
And I started doing it because I got tired of fighting LA. And so I said, well, dang, I'm not going to get cast. Well, I have a passion for acting. I can produce. I know how to do it. I've done some things. I don't know about anybody else. I want to act. So if I'm going to do something, you better give me a part. I want to write myself into it.
It worked for Alexandra.
It worked for me.
It worked for her.
I'm the lead in 3 of those movies.
Thank you, Louise. We have a question from Kelly.
Hey, just a question about, in your experience, have you always finished your film product before you've sold it? Or have you sold the concept and then use that money to sell it?
So far, I have always made the whole entire movie and then taken it out, because there's a lot of myths on that too. It's like, even at my 5th feature, I couldn't get something pre-sold. It is so hard. They're like, great, that sounds like a great idea. Go make it and I'll buy it off you. So I have yet to be able to do the pre-sale thing. But obviously what we're doing is working because they have all gotten bought, because hey, people make movies all the time and they don't ever go on to see the light of day. And that's why in these 6 weeks, we will talk about over and over your assets and also having a sellable movie. But I have never been able to get the pre-sales. Or even, so Catching Faith 1 went on to become the top 5 consistent selling movie for RLJ releasing. And they requested a sequel, but they were like, we won't pay for it. We won't do anything. But when you make it, we'll buy it from you. So I was like, you asked me for a sequel, and that's how hard it is to get. And trust me, Kelly, the second somebody wants to give me something ahead of time, I'm in, but I haven't been able to get that. So I just keep hustling to make movies, you know? So we ended up raising exactly what RLJ releasing promised to buy it for. We raised that, going to just investors saying, you will get your money back the second we sell it. And we made it for exactly what the sale was of the movie, but we still had to raise private investment off a movie that a distribution company asked for. So that's how hard it is to get them to put up money ahead of time. You know, did that answer the question?
Yeah. I mean, I have a number of projects in the work, but one of them is so big, you know, it's one of those that we'll either have to do a sizzle reel or a pilot or something, because there's no way to pay for it ourselves. But another one's a lot smaller that, you know, maybe we can raise the money for it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I had the time in my brain wrong. We got plenty of time. I was like, oh my God, I started stressing out. It was like,
I know you're talking. Look at this. I'm like, oh my, how do I interrupt her?
No, interrupt me. We got plenty of time.
Kathleen,
like 20 minutes.
Kathleen just stepped in and then she just stepped out, but she was excited to see everyone here. I was going to say, hi, Kathleen, but we're covering great stuff. Okay, go for it.
The questions are so good, because then I can give you exactly what you guys need. And then, you know, all I can do is tell you, I always say to people, it's not a golden road. This is what worked for us, but it does work every single time we have. So we're doing something right. And I think it's like, you know, making a quality film, knowing where to put the money as a producer. So does anybody else have another question that I can answer? Yeah.
So have you ever made a big enough budgeted film where you actually had to receive your money in tranches? So you made for pre-production, for production, and for post. Have you ever
raised in? Are you asking if we raised in installments for each process?
Okay, maybe you did it that way. I work in banking and high finance. So I don't work in banking. I work with banks and with high finance, like government finance. So I'm aware that larger, but in the multi-million-dollar range, always get their money in what's called tranches. So they'll get so much by this date for this long for you to do all your pre-production. And then on this date, you'll get your second tranche of funds, your second amount for you to do your production. And so you don't know.
Okay, so I'm like super, no, I hear what you're saying. I'm super scrappy indie.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to the multi-millionaire yet. I hope so someday. Maybe my 20th movie, I'll get there. But no, so I raise everything independent, private investment, friends, family. We did have a hedge fund company out of Boston that paid for Wish for Christmas. And my sales agent, who became my executive producer, was very strict about nothing gets spent or done until the entire amount is raised, in the bank, committed. And because the responsibility of money is huge, and especially at our level of indie, we literally, like, once the money's in the bank and we're off to the races, I'm scared the first day we write that first check, because it's like, that's it. And if anything we don't finish this, I owe that person that from my own pocket. So that'll light a fire under you to finish your film.
And SAG requires it. SAG for you to have all your budget in the bank before you start.
Yeah.
The Actors Guild requires it.
Well, we're not in the direct. So I've never worked with union. I've never worked with union crews, not yet. I have worked with SAG, so you do have to give SAG the bond that they require, and of course, like, you know, you a lot of actors might be like, you know, pay or play, where we'll sign off, but you have to pay me whether you make the movie or not. That's really risky. Yeah. So, but for us in the indie world, we have just raised, and you know, I mean, our budgets. I can tell you our budgets. Our first movie was $10,000. Our second movie was $75,000, all in. and I just make the movie work within the budget. And then Wish for Christmas was, I believe, 330,000. Then we went down to 180,000 for Catching Faith 2, which was already pre-sold to RLJ. And then Switch was 430,000 and Greatest Inheritance was 700,000. So those have been my budget levels. And we have been very conservative with our money. Everything goes on screen. Our sets might look a little rinky-dink, but who cares? Because all that matters is what goes. So, we're really frugal, and we know how to make a dollar stretch, and we know how to make it look beautiful. It's important to have an amazing cinematographer, and don't skimp on sound, and knowing, we can do a whole session on knowing where to really put the money to make the movie beautiful. Because I've seen some movies that have a 3 million budget, and I'm like, where did that go to the producers and first class plane tickets? But I've often, literally lived, my crew and I, who are all friends forever, we've slept in sleeping bags to make movies. And, I never had the glamorous life, but I've always gotten my investors their money back, and that's what matters.
Any chance you could share? Sorry. Any chance you could share with us in one of these classes a list of what crew members you typically hire? Or tell us how big your crew typically is. And
right. Yeah. And I can put together a list, because obviously with Home Sweet Home, it was 5, and there were some days where there was only 3 of us. And then on At Your Own Risk, which is on Tubi and Roku channel, the one we made for like no money, there was 4 of us. A guy who held the boom, and a guy who held the camera, and me and my girlfriend who acted in the movie. And we went out to the New Mexico desert and shot this film. Literally, it was just for us to learn self-distribution. So we weren't going to raise money and do some big thing trying to teach ourselves self-distribution. But because my cinematographer was amazing and the sound was great, and we got some really great post people, we made a beautiful movie, and it came out great. Now it's indie. Of course it's indie. It's not, but wait, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, Kelly.
That's okay. Maybe like your 450 and 700,000 movies, like how big is that crew and how many days?
I think how many days? 18 days. We've always shot our films in 18 days. Great question. I'd like a little bit more, 18. In the beginning too, we were doing 6-day weeks. That's like in the beginning of our career, 6-day weeks with 1 day off, because we had to shorten the time of the equipment and the crew. But that was just killing our crew. And we were all just so tired doing 18 days with 6-day weeks, that once we got a little more money, we were like, we're moving to 5 days so that everyone has 2 days to recover. It puts a lot of strain. And like, I would say, and having an amazing, the key people, a great director, a great cinematographer, an awesome line producer, somebody who really knows their numbers. And that's not me. I'm not a line producer. And then, I think sometimes we've been so blessed to find up and coming crew, even cast, who are just like amazing, untapped people there's so many talented people out there. And then of course, vet your crew. But I would say, cinematographer, number 1, because they're what's going to light that movie. They're what the eye is, it's going to see it. And that's what and then of course, actors, because if the actors are bad right away, it just takes, and I used to cast all my own films until I met Lisa London and Catherine Stroud. I used to I did everything. I crewed the movie. I casted the movie. On Catching Faith, we had so many volunteers. No one had really been on a film set. I was running around, running every department, helping, making sure. So everybody was just volunteering. They were just people from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, who were like, that sounds like fun. I'll come help. But at the end of the day, we had an amazing director and cinematographer and I brought in some of my friends, like Lorena Segura, who plays the lead. She had been my best friend. I said, girl, will you come do me a huge favor and be the lead in my movie? And she is outstanding. And I already knew that. And I called in a favor, like the actor thing, if you have some actor friends who'll help you out. So, but I will put together the list of the top and the ones, Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky from my crew that I met in New Mexico. Those guys all used to be electricians. They worked in G&E with G&E. So they really also knew what they needed to make the movie. That they'd be like, I don't need that. And, we were on Wish for Christmas and our line producer told our director, you have to have this piece of equipment. And he was like, I don't have to have anything. I could have a stick and a rock and I'll make it beautiful. But that's us coming from indie all the way up. Sometimes hard for people to go from the 5 million down to the 500,000. They're like, I have no, but every time we get a little more, we're like, well, we already know how to do it with the dollars. So, but I can put together a list, or I can even look at our spreadsheets of who we used, but you don't need a lot of people. That's just like, and sometimes you lose so much in the communication on set through all the departments that you lose time. It's like, sometimes I go back to our small sets thinking, man, we just moved because then everyone's just eating your craft date and they're hanging out, you know what I mean? And so sometimes I think a small crew can be really more efficient and just as long, and sound, we never skimp on a sound guy and then a sound designer, because sound is always what ruins an indie movie. And you're like, oh my gosh, right? So I mean, a lot of times we didn't have hair and makeup. We did our own hair and makeup, in the beginning. Can't do that when you got Denise Richards. You got to cover her hair and makeup. But, in the beginning, when we started out, it was just very skeleton crew,
Okay, thanks.
But that was a good question. Crew is, it's just cinematographer. I really can't even stress how important that is on a set, because there's a lot of things that you can live without that you can, but if the person who's shooting the camera doesn't know what they're doing, then you guys.
I found if you get a good one, they kind of teach a second AC, and like if you let them bring maybe a camera operator with them, then they'll help a director, or they'll help the second AC,
We did, oh yeah.
Because I think they like to teach too.
They do. They love to teach.
So, yeah.
Our cinematographer, a lot of the times we'd have volunteers in the camera department and he was teaching. And I'm such a big advocate of getting more women in the camera department. So sometimes I'd be like, I'm bringing this girl from this school who wants to learn. You're going to teach her. And but Rick loved teaching them. And I was like, there was a minute there where we didn't have women in the camera department. It would really bother me. And I told my cinematographer, it's a requirement from here on out that I see a woman in the camera department on my film set, because that's crazy. No wonder women will never get the job if they don't have somebody pushing for them or learning, or, so, but it's a great question. But like hair and makeup, if you're indie, that's not, or wardrobe, Catching Faith 1, all the wardrobe is from the people who are the actors. Now we had amazing actors who said, I'll bring my own wardrobe. But, and then as you level up and have a bigger budget and like Joey Lawrence is not bringing his own clothes to set and neither is Denise Richards. But when you're at that level, yes, you have to. But in the beginning, we just kind of pulled our own resources together to make it work. We even, for Catching Faith, we had a local hairdresser from town who volunteered and did hair and makeup on our film set. But resources, it takes a village to make a movie. So if you're in a village, go around and go, well, you do that. We had a local carpenter in New Mexico and we said, we need you to build us a platform. And he was like, I'll do that for you. Just find the people in the little village that do that anyway. So any other questions at the moment?
I have a question.
Yes, Emily.
Okay. So I understand a literary agent is where you write your script and they help you sell your script, whereas the sales agent helps you sell your finished film.
Right.
Will the sales agent, when you're going through like the interview with them, will they ever ask for any written scripts that you plan on producing and making in the future to kind of help you get them? Or is it just the finished products at that moment?
Well, I'm sure everybody has a different story. Absolutely. You can find a sales agent who might come onto a script. I think it's a little harder, for me. I pitched a finished film to a sales agent, and then he saw that we were talented and said, I believe in you guys. let me join your team and I'll be your executive producer, which was like, I mean, the dream. That he was like, I'll get the money, you make the movie. What? Yeah. We'll do that. And so and then what was great about having our sales agent ahead of time was we could pitch him log lines, and that's what we do. And he'd be like, that'll never sell. That's stupid. And then we'd be like, okay. And then he would say, do that one. That's a great idea. We can sell that. So having also my sales agent was great, but I did have a feature that propelled my career with him. And because I was just saying this the other day, like, proving you can do something is so important for everybody. Everybody wants to know that you know what you're going to do. And what's so funny with the story about my sales agent was, in this meeting, he says, you should make faith-based family movies. If you go out and if you make a football movie, I'll get you $75,000. And then I walked away from that meeting going, okay, I'm going to do that. So I went to Wisconsin. We started lining up locations. We wrote the script. I got actors, and I called him and said, all right, we're ready. And he was like, do you know how many people I've offered that to? And nobody's ever called me and said they're ready to make a movie. Wow. So much of this is just hustling it and being like, I'm going to hold you to it if you give me an opportunity. But like he said, so many people, he said, I would love to work with you as the sales executive producer, but they never took the reins and made it happen. And we always make everything happen. And then we're like, oh, can we have the 75K? Because we need to go make it. And so like, even Catching Fate 2, when this distribution company asked for the sequel, we didn't know how we were going to fund it. We didn't have investors. And Andrea and I said, let's just write it so we have it. And that's being ahead of the game all the time, being willing to pivot and being ahead of the game, and then listening. But I think that's a really good question. I'd have to ask some sales agents or people I know. I don't know anybody who has the story that they got a sales agent on a script.
Got it.
Because a sales agent's job is to sell your movie. So, and like I said, the pre-sales is so hard because Ryan even tried to take the horror out with another script out. And he was like, everyone just said, make it. And so he couldn't even parlay the next movie from our last movie with the distribution company. So what would this, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like if a sales agent came on as to your script, what would they do for you unless they became your EP?
Okay.
They can't do anything until they have a movie to sell, unless they're going to sell your script, and that's just you pitching to Netflix, and good luck because it's hard. But you can do that.
Is that the same
thing? Do that
thing?
yourself.
Is that the same thing with them selling foreign rights? Because I heard at one point that they can often sell foreign rights to something to get the money to make it.
Yes. I mean, yeah, but then you get into actors, then you get into all these other factors. And like I said, because I come so indie and scrappy and have had such an uphill climb with the choice I make to stay in faith-based family, foreign isn't huge for faith-based. Just to let y'all know, foreign is not we had a great sale for Wish for Christmas in Germany, Australia, because it was Christmas. There's only a few countries that buy faith-based. It's South Africa, Brazil, huge in Brazil. And I'm trying to remember the other one, but it's not, faith does not sell overseas. Like it's really, you're selling for America. So it's just good to have that expectation that you might get a little trickling in, but foreign, not in faith-based. But other things, I think comedies are hard to sell too, because they don't like translate as well. Horror sell because turn everything off and everyone knows, get out of the house and don't die. Like turn the volume off, turn the audio off. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of dealing with that right now with my new project. I have some incredible producers attached that know how to do the foreign sales. But I think it still comes down to the talent. And people always ask, oh, well, what if I get an actor attached? It is so hard to get an actor attached without the money, because the agent doesn't want to commit the actor. They don't want to say, oh yeah, they'll do it. Then if you don't get the money, the actor can't do another project. So it's always the chicken and the egg. And I have not been able to secure an actor without having the money in the bank to prove to the agent, we're going to make this movie. And they also want your dates. The first thing an actor is going to say is, what are the dates to filming? I'm not signing up. Well, maybe, So but hopefully with my new film, I'm going to learn a lot more. I just come from scrappy. We make it ourselves. We do it ourselves. And then we sell it ourselves because I made my own career. I didn't have any legwork. I had nobody in this business. I knew nobody. I had nothing. And really, we all know so much is nepotism in this business. So if you don't have anything, I literally have had to start the little pebble on the ground and like, so foreign sales would be great. I think that's playing in a bigger league and you got to get to that league.
Yeah. You got to
That's
start.
like studio level league,
Yeah.
which we all want to get there someday. And if you can bypass what I did and get to the studio, go for it.
Wow.
But
So
then
hard.
you lose control of your project too. I got offered 1.5 million from a big studio for Switch. And then they were going to come in and they were going to mess up my movie and make it raunchy and do horrible things. And I said, no way. So one thing I do love about my films is I took them from conception to completion and nobody stuck their hand in it. Even one thing our sales agent EP did was when the investors invested, he said, you're silent. These people are creative. Trust them. Don't tell them what to do. You're the money people. They're the creatives. And thank goodness we had investors come visit set, but they never meddled into what we did because most of them business people,
Mhm.
So, and they were all very happy with the outcome of the project. So that helps too. Do we have any other questions for tonight? But yeah, and I put my email in the chat so that, like I said, throughout the week, if you come up with something, you're like, oh, I really want you to tackle this. I put together, things we can cover each week. It's just so hard because it's making a movie is so all over the place. You know what I mean? It's kind of better if we have questions or I'm kind of mentoring you through whatever process you're in. But I have a very scrappy mentality that I really would like to get to the next level, but it's so competitive and hard. Like I've pitched to studios, I have tried, I have gone to Netflix, I've gone to Hulu, and they have continued to reject me. So I will continue to have to make my own stuff until they cannot ignore me anymore.
I have a question about pitching. I'm actually going to do a pitch fest tomorrow night to pitch a project. So any tips, last minute tips for pitching? I'm pitching tomorrow. I have 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Okay. So you have your log line down.
Yes.
Do you have your comparables? It's this meets that.
Yep.
Okay. That's huge. And you have 6 minutes. I've never gone to a pitch-a-thon before.
Long time.
That's a long time.
Well,
So
right now
I memorized your treatment.
I have right now. I'm right at just under 5 minutes though, and I want it to be like 4 to be able to let them have questions and comments and thoughts. So
right.
I didn't know if you just had
memorizing it.
Yeah.
Passionate about it. I was once in a meeting with an investor and I was being overly passionate and my producing partner hit me under the table and was like, chill out. And my investor was like, don't tell her to chill out. I'm giving you the money because this girl believes in what she's doing. So I do think that passion goes a long way. I don't know what kind of pitch-a-thon it is, but I know Frank at Walden Media, and he and I have a relationship now because he was like, your energy of how much you love what you do makes me want to work with you. And I do think in this industry, if you can believe it and care about it, that energy makes other people want to so I always say, go in and be like, they have to make this or the whole world will end.
I know. Sounds good.
Just have your log line and it's this meets that and make it so easy for them to see in their mind what this is, like I always said with Switched, I do the log line and it's Mean Girls meets Freaky Friday, boom. And everyone's like, well, I know exactly what that is,
Right.
Practice so that even if I did tonight, lost my train of thought, you can bring it right back or ad lib, which is, it's nerve-wracking. I get it.
Yeah.
It's so important that we're out there creating our own stuff and not waiting for someone to say yes, especially in an industry where they do not want anything to do with the stuff that we are doing. If we're inspiring young girls, especially young girls, clearly they would like to destroy the young girls in our country. They're trying to do it and they're not going. So we just have to stay true to standing up for it and being like, then we'll find a way to do it ourselves, even if you don't let us. And thank you all for being here, and everybody have a blessed week.